Happy Pay It Forward Friday. Happy Aloha Friday. Welcome to another episode of Ask Cindy Connector Live. Hello. This is Cindy, your host over at Ask Cindy Connector Live. In just 1 minute, I will introduce my guests. So, is that a background noise there, Kevin?
It's just part of the time of the day where outside the condo they come and empty the dumpsters. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All the value of doing a live broadcast. So
that's the way
really
it goes. I will mute if they start banging on it and you fill the space. Okay.
All right. So really quickly, follow me on Ask Cindy Connector Live. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and also on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe, comment, and share. If you subscribe and comment to this very broadcast, I'll gift you a 3-night hotel stay. If you comment, share on Facebook or LinkedIn, you'll get a 5-night hotel stay. Just inbox me if you want more information about that. And so a little bit about the show. It's all about spreading love, kindness, and what my friends are doing. And today we have a very interesting topic. So we'll get to that in just 1 minute. And I am a client retention specialist, and I'm also a podcast mastery coach. Make sure you go to AskCindyConnectorLive.com and also SurfCityAlohaMarketing.com and NationalDayCalendar.com. Make sure that you follow them on all social media. Live your life every single day. Celebrate your life. And I actually am giving away one National Day calendar. If you post on this broadcast and post calendar, I will actually do a drawing here later on this weekend. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. And today, back on the show by popular demand, Mr. Kevin O'Connor. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I think you spelled my name wrong.
Oh, I did?
No, April Fool's. Just joking.
Oh, you're killing me. Okay, let's go into your story. For those who haven't met you, tell your little background story, and then what is it that you do?
Sure. Well, for years, I lived a fairly traditional life, which was that I was married for 30 years. I have 2 adult children, and I started multiple businesses, and I was an entrepreneur, and I did everything you're supposed to do, and I had a great deal of success and had a pretty good life. And then I reached a certain point in my life when I realized that there were a whole bunch of gaps in my life, and there were a lot of things I didn't know. And it wasn't about business, and it wasn't about parenting. It was really about who I was and what I wanted to do with my life. And so that began the beginning of my transition. I left my marriage for 30 years, and that was 7 years ago. And I moved from starting businesses and running businesses to coaching entrepreneurs, and then life coaching people who, mostly people who are in transitions in their life. So people who are coming in and out of marriage, retiring, having difficulty with their children, people who are facing milestones in their life and just weren't set up to be able to handle that. Do you hear that beeping in the background? It's
that's
really
fine.
Annoying. It's like
that's what happens when we go live, right?
Yeah. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So you've been on the show before about talking about narcissism, and today we're talking about children and young adults that are having those narcissistic traits. So tell my audience a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And, we have hit the peak moment for the big truck to back up to the dumpster out there and then pick it up and bang away. So why don't you tell me a little bit about why you felt this was a topic that would be worthwhile discussing today while the truck backs up?
I actually had a couple of my followers were asking, when is Kevin coming on the show again? I really like when he's on the show and various topics. We've talked about other things as well, about dating and stuff like that. But this is a super important topic because I'm around those, and my friends are around those who have those narcissistic traits. So let's go into it a little bit. What do you think leads to a child having those narcissistic traits?
First of all, do you think that there are more narcissists out there? Is it a common topic? I mean, when you were growing up, did anybody ever use the word narcissism?
No, not in the 60s, no.
So what do you feel like when you hear someone saying that person's a narcissist? What do you associate with that?
Can you repeat?
What do you associate as narcissistic traits when people say they're a narcissist or someone's a narcissist? What do you think that means?
I would say someone who acts entitled. They're all about themselves. They really don't care about others. They only care about what they want. That's a short version of it.
So I'm going to tell you that clinically, there are not as many narcissists as you think,
Really?
but there are a lot of really poorly behaved people. There are a lot of people who are entitled. There are a lot of people who are very self-focused. There are a lot of people. So there's a lot of, I would say, borderline narcissism or narcissistic traits, but pure narcissists. If you talk to a psychiatrist and you do, there are not that many of them around. So that's a good thing. But there are tons of people who behave like they are narcissists, and we're starting to see people identify narcissistic traits with young people and children. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why we're starting to see of those um, folks pop up, and what you think leads into it. So here's what they say doesn't lead into the creating of a narcissist. If you're nasty, if you're mean, if you're kind of a disconnected parent, if you're just kind of like a grumpy old parent and you're hard on your kids, not like you're not breeding narcissism. But interestingly enough, when they interview people who've been diagnosed as narcissists and they do some sort of qualitative research, these are young people who there was an increased elevation of their importance in the family. So it's not unusual you could have a family of three and one of them has four kids and one of them is a narcissist. And guess
Hmm.
what? They're often the golden child. They're the ones people were sort of a little bit more, they're a little more special. They're mom and dad's favorite. They were the one that someone said, hey, no, don't give them a hard time. You never know how they're going to react. So these are individuals who um, felt that light was shining on them in a different way than it may have been shining on their siblings, or they could have been an only child. So they were super special, very, very special, and they felt it. And but there was a disconnect between being treated special and how they felt. So they sort of began to kind of to buy into this idea that they were special, or at least adopt that. And here's another characteristic they found that with children that when they were reflecting back on how they were treated, an awful lot of leniency and poor boundaries.
Hmm.
So
Boundaries.
an inability to like you're special, and with that you can do whatever you want. So there's this entitlement idea of entitlement. Now I'm not suggesting when you treat your children like that you end up with people who grow into being narcissists, but I'm saying these are what people who have been diagnosed with narcissism start reporting back about their experience growing up. So they were special, and there was a lot of leniency. And so those are two characteristics. So if you think to your own family or think to other people, you say, what, how did you become a narcissist? Sometimes those things feed into it. Now, I don't think there is an agreed upon, like this makes for a narcissist. And the other thing about narcissism is it's really hard um, to have people who have narcissistic tendencies that sort of let them go. What they can do is they can adapt to them, the feedback, and they make changes, but it's kind of one of those things that once a narcissist, probably a narcissist. So if we can prevent them, it's better. Um, the other thing about narcissists is that because they felt special, they often didn't get the kind of role modeling about what healthy interaction was. So, for example, you might have somebody who is behaving rather narcissistic, and their parents is in an elevated position in society. So it's like there was a lot of, whoa, your dad is this, your mom is this, wow, your mom. And sometimes those folks, they earn the adoration. So someone is either the chief pediatric surgeon in Sinai, or it's like, oh, like somebody actually has the kind of awe, inspires awe and admiration because of their accomplishments. So they see somebody in their family being honored. They see somebody, but they don't associate that with that's a natural result of having earned it or their position in life and the work that they did. They just see like, oh, that person is super special, and therefore I get to be super special too. Um, and sometimes you've got somebody in the family really, really thinking, treating somebody special, and you have the other person very disconnected. So it's like, dad is really not involved in my life, and I'm a mama. Mama thinks I am super special. So there's no balancing off of feedback, and there's no balancing off of the masculine and feminine. So they just absorb the experience of being parented in a way that's like they're the golden child. So those are some of the, not I'd say predictors or influencers. Um, so if you have somebody who is treating their little child like they can't do any wrong, and at the same time not giving that child healthy boundaries and providing some sort of natural consequences to their behavior,
Mm-hmm.
we're not setting that child up to succeed in a way in relationship in future that'll have them understanding sort of the natural give and take in relationship. So it's almost like, narcissism is at one end of the continuum, but between where you're parenting and that end of the continuum are all sorts of opportunities to make a difference in your children's lives so that they grow up in a way that they are independent. And the number one, in my belief, the number one thing we can do with our children, the number one gift we can give them is teaching them how to be independent in life, so the how to not need us. And that is so that when they are with us, it's because they want to be with us, as opposed to because they need us to solve things. And here's another thing that they associate with narcissism, and that's overprotection. You
Mm-hmm.
overprotect the child, you treat them like they're the golden child, and you don't give them any boundaries. There's no consequences, there's leniency. Of that, you're setting that child up to have unrealistic expectations about who they be in their world, which means it's the likelihood of impacting a lot of people in a negative way without having any insight. They don't, it's like it's not really their fault.
Well, let's talk about boundaries. So, someone who's a parent, say they have a 10-year-old child, how are they going to raise them to where when the child is 25, they're not repeating those same traits?
Okay. So there's parenting, and then there's supporting the development of your adolescent. So if we're going to parent a young child, we're going to give them some guidance, some structure, so a framework, and we're going to be essentially teaching them how to be, sort of how to be themselves and how to express themselves, and provide some parental guidance. At some point in adolescence, you're providing support for them as they begin to make decisions for themselves. So if we make all the decisions for them, if we don't allow them to take any risk, if we are extreme in our reaction to their behavior, or actually accommodate their behavior and don't have any reaction, um, if we don't give them a sense that the world, there's natural consequences to behavior, and we try to interfere with those natural consequences so they don't see the results of their behavior. A classic example would be somebody hits a ball through the window of somebody's house, and mother says, "Oh my God, well, I'll go and talk to him." No, you hit the ball. Let's go. I'll stand behind you if you need some support and encouragement. Mr. Ferguson, I was playing ball in the back, and I think I owe you a window in your garage or something. It may be terrifying, but the satisfaction that comes from solving that problem will actually stay with that child for years. As opposed to, Mom, it's like, oh, I can't go out, I can't face it. It's like, okay, Mr. Ferguson, Johnny, we'll pay for it. Like, so that's not how the world works. And so it's the world that you want to create for your child, because sometimes you're afraid that your child will experience difficulties in life and not realize that those difficulties are actually how we learn. We need to learn lessons like that. So if we take away the opportunity for children to learn a lesson, we take an opportunity away for them to actually grow into an adult and be independent, because they'll just have to learn that somewhere else. Um, so boundaries are really, so we talked about boundaries, like the boundaries are really like, this is the point where what you're doing is working for the family, and this is the point where it's not working for the family and for you or for me,
Or for others. Yeah.
for others. Like, you can go into your room, but if you slam the door, you've just crossed a boundary. You went into your room angry. Okay, you're entitled to have space on your own, but now your behavior is such that you are interfering with other people's lives. So it's like
Mhm.
you can cry, you can scream and want if you want to scream in front, that's okay. But at some point, that's not working for all of us, and you need to know what's working or not. I don't like to use right and wrong because we go into that. It's too easy. That's wrong. I like to sort of look at what's working, what's not working, especially in relationship. When I'm coaching in relationships, then he did this and it's so wrong. It's like, well, she's always saying I'm wrong and right. It's like when you do that, there's a winner and a loser. If you actually say
Mhm.
to somebody, I just want to tell you, you can continue to do that, but it's not working for me. And hopefully you're interested in what might work for me, which I think will eventually work for us. You don't have to change, but there's a consequence. I'm not going to be hanging around with you too much. You're grumpy and an old bear. I'm just going to take a walk and I'm going to do something with my friends. Not like, you shouldn't be like this. You shouldn't do that. Don't talk to me that way. It's like, this doesn't feel good, and I'm struggling with that, and I'm going to remove myself from this experience because it's not good for me. Oh, so the right or wrong, is sort of a dangerous one. And so kids need to understand that it's not a right or wrong. It's just like, how's that working for you? And if you're lenient, all you're doing is telling them however they behave, it's working for them.
Well, let's talk about, I mean, we're talking more about adults and children today, young adults and children, but it applies for anybody in our life who has those narcissistic traits. What is the best way to talk to them about like how they are treating us without hurting their feelings? Because a lot of those that have narcissistic traits, they feel offended when we tell them of something that's bothering us.
Right, because they feel entitled
Hmm.
to not have negativity or a negative experience or negative feedback because they're special, and I'm a special person. And if you don't comply with the way in which they want you to behave, they take it personally. So think about the narcissist whose partner says, "I can't live with you anymore." Now, often they'll fight tooth and nail. My God, how you could do this to me? Well, and they'll try to win that person back, and they'll do everything. But they're not trying to win them back because they love them. They're trying to win them back because nobody leaves me. Because that would be because I'm special. I am the center of my universe. I don't have any empathy for you. I don't have any ability to connect emotionally. But my life looks like this, and you are disrupting my life. Therefore, you're doing something wrong. Therefore, I need to fix my life. So I'll have you come back. And then, by the way, if you ever go back, they make your life a living hell because, they're punishing you because you had the nerve to put them in an experience where they felt uncomfortable. So it can't be about what they did. It only can be about how you feel and what works for you and they'll still take it personally.
So
And you can all,
how do you keep it to where they don't have a meltdown if you tell them something that they said that has really bothered you? How do you
well, you
keep that
can't,
to where it's
okay.
mellow and not abrasive and volatile?
Well, you have to assume, are you assuming that you can actually keep anybody from behaving a certain way? We can't. They can choose it. And the question is, how do you do it in such a way that you don't get any upset anymore?
Hmm.
So guess who narcissists connect with? Empaths. People who feel badly for upsetting somebody, for another person around them being upset. Oh, honey, I'm sorry to upset you. I'm sorry. It's like they chose to be upset. But something you did was actually a natural reaction or response, but they got upset. You didn't upset them. So sometimes you can actually reason with them and say, when did you decide to give me all the power to upset you? Because it seems like you're upset a lot. And you seem to be a pretty courageous, strong individual, but I say this and you go off like, I don't really want that power. I don't want the power to make you yell and scream. That's a lot of responsibility. So that's kind of playfully and kind of tongue in cheek. But the point is that what you're saying to them is that do you realize what you're allowing to happen because of me? And sometimes that appeals to the ego, like, yeah, I don't, yeah, like, why am I so upset? The other one is to just be very, very honest and short and don't engage, which is like, I'm finding myself getting really triggered and upset by what's happening. And I don't like to have this feeling. So the best way for me to get rid of this feeling is to take a little time by myself or just take a bit of a break. And you can do that with children. You got a child who's going crazy. It's like, hey, I can tell you're really upset, and I don't like to see you upset, and I'm sorry that you're upset. But when you're upset, you say some pretty strong things, and some of those things I find hurtful, and I have to kind of stay away from them. So if you, as long as you're feeling this way and screaming this way, take a little break. For me, you can do whatever you want, but it's not working for me. I'm going to go into my room now and just take 10 minutes on that and just take a little break. And if you're feeling a little bit like talking, and you can talk to me in a way that's just not so loud, or I don't feel threatened, like you could say, I don't feel safe. Like when kids realize, like, wow, I have upset my parent to the point that they can't connect with me, then that's a natural consequence. Like if you're a dick at the workplace, no one's going to spend time with you in the lunchroom. Like it's not that it's not like they're giving you feedback. Like the feedback is they don't want to be around you. That's normal in life. So the other one is ask them to repeat what you said. Have you ever had this experience? I mean, we all had an experience when you say one thing and they say like, you say like, I think I'm going to need to take a break from, I think I need a couple of days away. Oh, you're leaving me. Oh, now you're leaving me. Oh, this is that. You're like, when did I say I was leaving you? I said I need to take. So it's often helpful to say, what did you just hear me say? Well, I heard you say I was leaving you. I didn't say this. I'm going to say it again. And what I'm saying is I need a few days to cool down, to get some time. I think it's time to go see my sister. I'm very upset and I need some time to process that now. What did you hear? Well, I hear you say you need some time. Yeah, that's it. Because you can't, they get mad about what story they think you said, but the story you actually told them actually isn't really unreasonable. I can get annoyed with you if you're threatening to divorce me. If you're saying, hey,
Well, lost them there for a minute. See if he's going to come back on. So with Kevin O'Connor, there he is, and he's back.
there we
So
go.
I'm about to close out the show, anyways. But really quickly, so how does it happen if someone's in their 20s that they're so far out in that narcissistic arena? I would say, can they change from when they started something at 10 years old to their 20s and 30s? Like, can that be changed? Because then the rest of their life they're in constant toxic relationships because of their behaviors.
Well, first of all, they have to care. They don't care. There's a lot of people in life who don't care. They're a victim. My mother and father divorced when I was 18. My boss at work, and they go on and they're sort of grandiose. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a famous rapper, and like they don't put the work in, but it's like they have this in their mind. If that works for them, and they're following what I call the recipe for aloneness, a lot of people can follow that recipe and they'll function, but they're not particularly fun to be around. Then there's nothing we could just, if they're family, you just be polite and spend not a lot of time with them. But if they're wanting different levels of connection, then they get to have some feedback. But we assume that they want different levels of connection. If you have a 21-year-old or 22-year-old who's living with, kind of in a bubble, and you think, gosh, I just don't have the relationship I want with them. it may not be of any value to them. They may not reach the point. Then it can be frustrating because you're trying to please them. You're trying to do something for them. You want to make them happy. You don't want to upset them.
Or
And
you're
they're like,
afraid that if you say
oh, you're
something,
afraid. Oh,
yeah,
it's like, oh, I don't want to, like, I want to be like, I'm so disposable in their life that the only way that I can be in their life is if I suck it up and don't speak my mind. I mean, it happens in relationships all the time. Why are you still with this man? Why don't you speak your truth? Well, I don't like it when he gets angry. I don't like it this. And it's like, what you're really doing is saying, I don't care enough about myself to be able to speak my
respect.
truth. And even if that means that person doesn't want to be around me, I feel good about myself. And then if you ask me what the likelihood is of the other person coming around, it's probably greater if you speak your truth than if you accommodate them, because that just reinforces their own feelings of like, I'm special. And I do believe that many narcissists are deeply unhappy. I just don't think they have the insight. You know,
And insecurity issues,
yeah, they're
yes.
deeply insecure, but they have this way of presenting themselves and they block out any kind of feedback loop that will challenge them to do the work. So they're not a lot of fun to be around them.
So we went a little bit longer today, but I really wanted to go into deep dive in this. Before we close out, let's do a recap and give a really quick tip. If someone has a teenager, because I've had a few people reach out to me who have teenagers and they're starting to have those narcissistic traits, how can they help that teenager change that mindset or that way of living as a narcissist?
Okay. You can ask that person how they want to be treated, and then ask them what they think, like what leads to them being treated that way. So usually there's a complaint, right? The person gets grumpy, and they're special. I need this, I need this. Like, what would, in the real world, what usually would lead to a person getting that? And at least they can get to the point, well, obviously if I'm nicer or easier to get along, maybe I'll, because it's like right now I'm not feeling very compelled to meet your needs. Like it's just, you're not, some people say, I'm not really enrolled in that behavior. Like you haven't caught my attention. It's like, it's not working for me. Presumably you want to use the car and telling me why I should give you the car and this or that or whatever, the way you're doing it, it's, it's not like you may not care, but I'm hoping that you care enough that if you do want if that's really what you want, you care enough to change the way in which you interact with people. Like you can't go in and rewire them, but at least you can make them a little bit more compatible. So I often wonder, like, if you say to somebody, like, how do you think, like, it looks like you want this. Do you think that's the best way of getting that? If that's something really want. And I'm not guaranteeing that even if you change, you're going to get it, but I'm going to tell you have a greater likelihood of getting your needs met if you pivot, if you change. And if they don't know what that means, you can give them an example, as opposed to attack them. Like like if somebody's in drama, they want to pull you into drama because somehow it makes them feel alive. It's like
Yes.
you're going to live in your shit by yourself. You're going to be by yourself in this. I'm not fine. It's like yours, not mine. And then it's lonely. And then they, whatever, you know. But in the meantime, it's kind of unpleasant.
Yeah, it's not us, it's them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that was an amazing show as always. So do a shout out to your website, and then if you want to shout out any other entrepreneurs, and then we'll close out.
Well, I wanted to tell, we were talking before, people said there's so much narcissism. If you want to know, there's some great people posting, just put narcissist in the search field for Instagram. And there's some people who've had experiences, and and there are some people who are actually have some insight that are narcissists. So just put it in there. You can learn. It's tons of things. And the scary thing about it is when I suggest that, and women friends of mine, and most narcissism exists sort of a 2-to-1, men versus women. Um, when women do that, they read a couple postings, and they're like, "Oh my God, that was him. Oh my God, I lived that. Oh my God, like it's all like, yeah." They read the checklist. Oh my God, it's kind of sad. But at least people are developing awareness and are able to take care of themselves. So go to Instagram, type in narcissist, and you know, be prepared to be educated. and come to my website, which is, and send me a note if you're interested in chatting with me or getting some coaching. I love working with people who are experiencing challenges in their life.
And who would you like to shout out? I like to shout out to Stephanie Massman because she connected us. So I'm just
Sure.
very grateful for that.
I want to shout out to my sister who was her birthday yesterday,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and she is an incredible silversmith and as well as a leader in the nursing faculty in University in Canada in Vancouver Island. She's in Tofino. Here's a shout out. Go to Tofino, British Columbia, which is the beach area on the west side of Vancouver Island. It is, the next closest place from Tofino is Japan. Like it's straight out across. That's where all the whales
Wow.
go. Tofino, it's a
Oh,
beautiful time in Tofino right now. So she's celebrating her birthday there. That's a great. That you should look. Send somebody to Vancouver Island with your travel. Vancouver.
yeah. I would love to get her on the Bucket List Coach website to talk about that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually went there. Oh my God, in the 80s. It was the last time I was in that area. Wow.
They have a big beach called Long Beach. It goes for miles. It's white sand, and you see
Oh my God.
it's cold, but you see the whales in the distance, and yeah, it's very beautiful. So I'm Canadian. That's why I shouted out to Vancouver and Vancouver Island.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to put you in the green room, and this was a 30-minute video, and I am going to cut out some snippets so we could do some shorts, and I'll give you an audio that you could add to your website. Any last tip before we close out?
Watch your show. It's great. I mean, you always have so many different interesting people from so many different fields, and usually, if they're not building their business, you're building their character. So, thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I'll see you in agreement in about a minute. Thank you, Kevin. So make sure that you go to Kevin's website. You could actually see it here either on YouTube or on Facebook. Actually, on Facebook, I have his personal page, and then YouTube will have the external links. And at 2:00, I have my friend Robin Stern. So we actually have collaborated. So he does the Google My Business platform. He teaches small business owners and realtors how they build their business through Google. And I help the small business owners and realtors with a platform called Mailbox Power to keep top of mind. This is Cindy over at Ask Cindy Connector Live. Think of 5 people every single day to express gratitude. And if you share this very broadcast after commenting and subscribing on YouTube, I'll gift you a 5-night hotel stay. Shaka baby, we'll see you on the next show.